Are you relocating to Fairbanks, but you're looking for some insider tips and tricks on how to make sure that your time here starts out pretty awesome? Well, stick around. We got some tips and tricks for you. Hey everyone, it's Justin Heminger with Apex Realty Group, and you're tuned in to Discover Fairbanks. We've guided thousands of folks through the process of buying and selling homes here in Fairbanks and North Pole over the past 10 years, and this channel is a collection of everything that we've learned along the way. So if you've ever got questions or comments, concerns or anything, drop them in the comment section below. We answer that every single day. You can also reach out to us at 907-885-0316, or you can reach out to us on our website, www.fbxhomesearch.com. So let's start talking about these. All right, let's start off with the kind of housing area of our lives. Number one, let's not underestimate the power and the importance of southern exposure when it comes to sunlight. If you are lean more towards too much southern exposure to maximize your winter sun, one of the benefits of buying a home in the middle of the winter is you get to see where the sunlight is in the darkest part of the year. That can be pretty nice because chances are, if you've got a little bit of sunlight in the winter, like some actual sunlight, then you're probably going to be fine in the summer. But if you've got no sunlight in the winter, then that's something to think about for the summer. Next, don't underestimate the necessity of a good mudroom. It doesn't matter whether it's winter or summer, you're going to be bringing in muddy things, you're going to be bringing in snowy things, and that stuff's going to get wet. Then it's going to be, well, let's change into other things, and then you'll change into that stuff, and then you'll go out, and then it will be this never-ending cycle of things stacking up. So when you're looking at homes, having a good mud room for people to come in and out of, to take boots off, to take snow gear off, to take breakup gear off, to take off all of the things is pretty nice. So keep that in mind when you're house shopping. All right, next up is setting up an auto maintenance plan for your heating and plumbing system. All right, next thing to keep in mind is that ventilation is important. So we put off a lot of moisture in just our day-to-day living in our homes through cooking and showers and even just breathing. I think it's like 400 grams a day of moisture is just through breathing. And so it's important that your home has a way to get rid of a lot of that moisture that comes in. Otherwise, you'll start to see it building up around like your windowsills, and you'll see it building up in your bathrooms. You'll see it everywhere in your kitchens. It'll be terrible. Luckily, having your bathroom fans on, using the ventilator or the ventilation in your kitchen is important. And if you've got an HRV, a heat recovery ventilation system, running that and having that running and keeping the hot, moist air that's inside being replaced with cool, dry air in the winter should help to regulate some of the moisture issues that you're facing inside. Next, consider a backup heating source. So currently we're experiencing 30 to 50 below temperatures here in Fairbanks and North Pole. And I can tell you, having a backup heating source would make a huge difference in terms of our heating fuel consumption. At 40 below, a typical heating fuel oil system will burn about 5 gallons a day. And being able to supplement that with a bag or two of pellets or a few armloads of wood would be pretty handy. Not to mention, the heat that an armload of wood gives out is pretty awesome, and it's pretty on demand. Like, radiating will make everything in the room, in the house, warm heat. So that's one downside of not having a wood stove, is not being able to take advantage of that heat. Another thing to keep in mind is when it comes to parking outside, having an electric setup for plugging in your vehicles is super important, and having one that you can trust is even better. Currently my vehicle is frozen up, so I don't have one that I can trust, evidently. But making sure that your outlets are set up and supporting and plugging in your vehicles to make sure that the battery heater, the oil pan heater, that the block heater, all of the necessary heaters to make sure that your vehicle is going to start at 40 below in the morning unlike mine did this morning. It's important that all of those are maintained and plugged in and running to be sure that your vehicle will plug in or will start and be able to be operational. Otherwise, you'll be sitting here I'm not sitting at my house, but sitting at your house, sitting where you are, not being able to move. Next on our list, consider the quality of insulation and your heating costs. So when you're buying a home here in Fairbanks, the first thing that you should be considering, at least in my opinion, is the thickness of the walls of the homes that you're looking at. Because the thicker the wall, the more insulation. The more insulation, the higher the R value of your walls. And the higher the R value, the better and the higher the likelihood that you're going to be able to trap that heat and trap that heat and trap that energy inside of your home. And being able to do that more efficiently is kind of the name of the game. And like I said, if you're able to do that efficiently, then you're able to save a little bit more money in the long run in terms of your utility bills. So the thicker the wall, chances are, the higher the amount of savings that you're going to be experiencing. But, you can also get a 2x6 construction home. Mine is a 2x6 construction home. And, it would be super expensive to rewrap it with a whole bunch of insulation. But it's not super expensive to take a look and see how much insulation is in the attic space and consider, how much is blown in the attic space and dump a few inches in there. That is one quick and much less expensive way to increase the amount of insulation that you've got working for you. So one way to think about that. Another thing to think about is the importance of having a heated garage. A lot of folks coming up ask about whether or not they need a heated garage, whether it's something that's super important. And, I thought years ago that it was a must-have, and I talked a lot about what my opinion on garages are in this video right here. But all in all, we use our garage more for storage space, heated storage space, than we do for parking space. It's basically heated indoor gym space. Kids can play in there. We take off our snow gear there. It's where we drop our gear. So we used to think that, we needed a place to park our vehicles and that was going to be so great. And I bet it is. But life ended up happening, and it's just a lot easier to use the garage for more life. There's more information about my opinion on that, or my opinion on garages in this video if you want to take a look at it. Right, when it comes to utilities and maintenance, here are a few other things to keep in mind. So one of the benefits of getting on a budget plan with heating fuel companies is that you can spread the cost of the yearly 2 or 3 payments for these huge heating fuel bills, spread over a period of months, over a period of 12 months, which is a lot nicer. It's much nicer to pay $300 or $400 a month rather than a couple of months of $2,500. Makes sense, right? So that's a huge benefit to being part of the budget plan, and you make that, I guess, a huge benefit. You can spread it over a few months rather than paying for it all in 1 or 2 big checks. But you can also get on a water delivery program where if you are considering buying a home with a water holding tank, where these water delivery companies will come out and deliver 1,000 gallons for you, and they're pretty slick. It's pretty awesome. So understanding and using heat tapes. So a heat tape is essentially a heated wire that can be wrapped around multiple pipes in order to help prevent them from freezing. Typically when there's snow on the ground, your heat tape should be on. Turning off in the summer should help save you a little bit of money on your electric bill, but don't forget to turn it back on in the winter, otherwise you could experience some issues with frozen pipes. As you're looking at homes, consider one with a generator backup for backup power. This is something that more and more homes are coming equipped with these days, and I totally recommend it. When, not if, but when the power goes out, it really is nice to be able to roll out the generator and keep your main systems like your boiler, your stove, your oven, your refrigerator, and your well pump up and running. It's nice to have those things going when there is no power. Next, keep your windows unshaded in the winter. Unless your windows are damaged to the point where they're no longer sealed and you've got to keep the plastic wrap all over them, using the plastic wrap and the dryer little technique to keep from constantly heating the outside. It makes more sense to keep your windows unshaded during the day, especially in the winter, because it's not really going to have too much of it's not really going to have too much of a huge impact on your heating bills, but it will definitely keep your windows from getting glazed over with ice. Because what ends up happening is that because your windows are shaded, they're not getting any warm air from the inside of the room. So when you take that shade off, the warm air from the inside of the room is able to rise, hit your cool glass, and then evaporate some of that glazed, any kind of moisture that should be there. So that's what keeps windows clean and keeps your windows from glazing over. Now, if the windows are unsealed and there's just a whole bunch of warm, wet air coming from inside to the outside, and it's frozen shut, because that's how it is, that's one thing you got to seal that up with. Do what you can. The importance of efficient living and checking past utility bills. So if I had to do it over again, and we bought a very nice, very energy efficient home, from one of the best builders in Fairbanks. But if I had to do it over again, I would look for a property that already had solar already installed. And going forward, I think that majority of the changes that we do make in terms of any kind of big money investments that we put into the house are more than likely going to be looking at energy efficiency changes over cosmetic changes. Like, we're not going to be doing any big kitchen remodels or big bathroom remodels or anything like that. It's going to be focused on reducing our energy costs. That just makes sense. Ooh, I almost forgot. We just updated our Fairbanks relocation guide, and it is filled with all kinds of information that you need to know if you're planning a move to Alaska. So if you click the link below in the description, you should be able to get yourself a free copy. Also, be sure to subscribe to our channel if you're looking for more Fairbanks related content. So if you're going to be new to the area, some other things that you need to know in terms of our overall environment and geographical considerations. You need to understand our flood zones, and that flood zones kind of matter. Given some of our overall terrain features, flood zones are important to keep in mind. For the most part, even though we've got a few large sloughs and rivers that are running through Fairbanks and North Pole, for the most part, it is protected by pretty steep banks and the Chena River Floodplain Project. That being said, there are quite a few areas that do require flood insurance, and that can affect overall finances quite a bit sometimes. It's not too bad. It's like $1,200 to the most that I've ever seen is like $4,000 or $5,000 a year. And that's where it's in some pretty low-lying areas along the river, but that's yearly $4,000-ish. For the most part, a lot of people aren't looking for those homes. The next thing to keep in mind are your overall spring drainage and what your grading looks like for your lot and the rest of your neighborhood. So whether you're buying in the winter or buying in the summer, being mindful of the layout of your lot is super important. Pay attention to where water's draining, especially at breakup season. And if you've got water standing where you've never seen water standing before, it's definitely something to pay attention to, especially as we start to get in and around breakup season. Winter navigation, I get questions about this all the time. What's the best vehicle? People are like, what's the best vehicle to drive? Is it a truck? Is it four-wheel drive? Is it all-wheel drive? I've driven a lot of vehicles. I've driven front-wheel drive, two-wheel drive, vans. I've driven trucks. I've driven Jeeps. And pretty much anything will get you where you need to go. It really kind of depends on how you're looking to drive. As long as you drive slow, you can pretty much get anywhere you need to go. There are some really nice tires that you can get for your vehicle, and you can have a little bit more traction in snow sometimes. But sometimes it's just also going to be really, really slick. And no matter what you do, no matter what your tires you have, you're going to slide. So just in bad weather, drive a little bit slower. That's how to do that. But even in really bad weather, you're still going to slide. So even go slower than that. Speaking of snow, have a snow removal plan. So snow is coming whether you like it or not. And once it starts, it's not going to stop for 7 months. It's all going to stack up, and it's all going to get out of control if you don't manage it. And consider where you're going to put it all, because once it starts to melt, it's all going to start to melt in about a week or two. And you need to make sure that when it drains, it doesn't drain anywhere near your foundation. So come up with a good plan to keep it all together, but keep it away from your foundation. All right, practical living tips. As far as city garbage and just rural transfer sites go, if you live in the city limits, you'll end up paying for waste management. And for a single family home here in Fairbanks, you'll end up spending about $93 a quarter, roughly $31 a month for waste management. If you live in one of the more rural areas, so outside of city limits, you can use the rural transfer sites. You can bring as much stuff as you'd like by the transfer sites. They're managed by the borough, and a portion of your property taxes go to pay for them. You can bring as much stuff by as you'd like. They're managed by the Fairbanks North Star Borough, and a portion of your property taxes are used to pay for them. Another thing to keep in mind if you're new to Fairbanks is that you need to apply for the residential tax exemption in order to get that $50,000 off of your assessed value for your overall property taxes. That can help save you thousands over the time of that you own your property. So you need to get in there and get down to the borough office and claim that. You can do it by mailing it in, but going down there and taking care of it in person will also get you done or get you taken care of. Next thing to keep in mind is that managing pet waste before the spring thaw is pretty important. This thing happens all winter long where it keeps snowing and all the pet waste just keeps disappearing all winter long. But then magically in the summer, it all just reappears. And the one problem happens is that when it reappears, it's much harder to pick up, and it spreads itself everywhere, and it's so gross. By picking it up all winter long, it makes it so that it's all gone by the spring, and it's so much easier. Trust me, after picking up dog dew for years and years and years and years in the spring breakup season, I highly recommend picking it up all winter long. So much easier, so much less heartache. Like I said, when you're looking at buying a home, two of the most expensive home maintenance items that you're going to experience, if you have to replace them, are going to be your roof and your septic system. So when you buy, make sure you get a home inspection and a septic inspection. And the engineer that I trust, that I recommend the most, is Tim Henry with Arctic Engineering. And he is super just systematic in his approach to each and every home inspection. And he's the one that I work with on every property that I've ever purchased, except for one. And I wish I would have used him on that home inspection as well. Probably would have saved me a lot of money. But he's the one that I recommend on every single home inspection, whether I'm working with somebody to help buy or sell. His information is going to be down in the description. He's awesome, so check him out. Next on our list is remembering to shut the garage door. So if you do end up parking in your garage, remember to shut the garage door, because if you forget, and it happens sometimes, I too forget. I am not perfect, believe it or not. And if you should happen to leave your garage door up and you have a heated garage at 40, 50 below, it's going to freeze that garage door, or it's going to freeze that garage up. If you've got a heated slab, it's not going to stay heated. It's going to be freezing. It's going to freeze up really cold. It's going to be bad. It's going to be very expensive if you want to try to put more heat back in like new heat tubes in. Nope. You're going to have to put a unit heater in there. You could. It's going to be super expensive. You're going to have somebody chip that concrete out of there and then relay tubes in and then put more concrete in there. That makes no sense. Just remember to close your garage door. There are timers that you can have on your garage, or on your garage door, to make sure that if your garage door does go up and it stays up for a certain amount of time, it automatically shuts. Those are pretty handy. Another thing to consider is you could park outside. That's what I do. That's there for you. But if you should ever open your garage door in the winter, and you don't typically, and you shut it, just make sure that before you back out of your driveway, you just count to 5 and you think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it still shut? All right, let's go. Typically that'll work. If you don't ever use it, then it will stay shut. So don't underestimate the importance of saving and budgeting for the things, the bumps in the road that life in Alaska is going to throw at you. So a lot of the tips and tricks that we've talked about are going to help you kind of avoid all of the biggest and most expensive pitfalls that we typically see in the first few years of home ownership. Doing all of those things and taking that advice could help you avoid some things, possibly. But being prepared for them financially is just as important. So setting aside, what you can in order to be prepared for some of these repairs is super important. We can still get a home inspection when we're buying, and we can ask the seller to make some repairs, or we can have some concessions in lieu of some repairs. We can still make all of these things happen, but the joys of home ownership still happen, and things are still going to break. And being financially prepared for those things happening is super important. So it's super tough to set money aside, especially when it's so tough financially right now. But setting something aside every month or two, so that way you can be prepared for these high cost repairs, is also going to be super important, because they are going to happen. At 40 below, that's when your boiler is going to go out. At 40 below, that's when your vehicle's not going to start, and that's when you're going to have problems. So be prepared for those things. Take steps, in your life to be sure that you can avoid some of these pitfalls. But some of them are just going to happen anyway, because that's life. And so be financially prepared for them by having a little bit of saving. Hope you got some value out of this video. If you did, or if you'd like to see some more videos like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions about this topic or any others, you can give us a call at 907-885-0316, or you can also reach out to us at www.fbxhomesearch.com. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.